I'm Nintendo.
And I'm Sega.
This is Console War!
We are sounding good.
We're totally gonna rock out at the Battle of the Band Saturday.
You think so?
Yeah, the song is so rad. I really like the lyrics. So bold. Fart in my face! Fart in my face!
Wait. What?
Fart in my face!
Fart in my face? No, I'm not. I'm saying for art in my face. It's a song about how I'm fighting for the arts everywhere.
Huh, because it sounds like you're saying fart in my face.
Why would I say fart in my face?
Who says for art in my face? What are you, Shakespeare? Wherefore art thou?
Yeah, well, it's clearly not for you. I mean, you, who know nothing about art. I mean, look at this. What is this, huh? It's garbage.
You're gonna pick that up, right?
Yeah, sorry about that. I'll totally pick that up.
This weekend's gonna be awesome.
Oh, most definitely. Huh. Wonder who this is. Oh no, it's my boss. He needs me to work all weekend.
What? But the Battle of the Bands!
I don't have a choice. Man, my boss is always pulling this nonsense.
When are you gonna stand up to him?
No can do. I mean, I try, but then I get all nervous, and I start to choke up. If only there was a way to tell him how I feel without having to use words.
Wait a minute. We're in a band!
So?
So, music is the weapon. We show up to work with all of our instruments. We make sure to have his full and undivided attention. And then with our instruments, we count to 3. And then we proceed to beat him physically until he gives in to our demands.
So you're saying to use physical violence?
Absolutely.
Is this a new thing?
No. Apparently people have been using physical violence for like 100 years.
Alright, I'm gonna give it a shot. Wait a minute. The law.
Right, the law. Forgot about that one. Would've been sweet though. Music is the weapon.
You keep saying music is the weapon. Where do I know that from?
Well, I got that from a video game with Aerosmith. Revolution X.
Oh yeah. I know it's not a great game, but I actually enjoy it. In a cheesy 90s kind of way.
Oh, me too. It's so ridiculous and over the top. I can't help but like it. Not a terrible game for the Super Nintendo library.
Yeah, but it's better for Sega Genesis.
Dream on! Everyone knows the Super Nintendo version is better.
You're talking crazy! Are we doing this?
You bet! Revolution X for Super Nintendo
versus Revolution X for Sega Genesis.
Revolution X is an arcade rail shooter developed by Midway for the arcade in 1994. Your mission is to join rock band Aerosmith and take on the New Order Nation. It's not a great game, but having Aerosmith, some of their songs, and enough 90s cheese gives it a so bad it's good vibe. A sequel centered around hip-hop group Public Enemy was planned, but never developed.
Revolution X was eventually ported by Raid Software and released by Acclaim for DOS computers, PlayStation, and Sega Saturn. However, the versions we're looking at today are the ones for Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. Which one's better? Let's find out. Both of these games look incredibly similar.
Agreed.
The characters in both games are digitized graphics, just like the early Mortal Kombat games. Everyone looks similar in both games. The enemies, the members of Aerosmith, and the various hostages.
While digitized graphics make the characters look good, character animation in both games is very limited. You see a lot of the same animations over and over again. It's not too bad since this game is a shooter.
The levels in both games look very similar too.
They also look incredibly true to the arcade game.
But the Sega version definitely looks better.
Let's start with the levels. They look better on Sega. Check out the skyline of this level. Looks like a big city with lots of clouds and skyscrapers. And check it out on Super Nintendo. It's just a few buildings, nothing in the distance. Now look at this boss with all the green toxin around. And on Super Nintendo, barely any toxin. Now look at the background of this boss. It's not much, but it's more than Super Nintendo. And what weapon are these guys throwing at me? Shark bones? Oh wait, it's an axe. Thanks, Sega.
Your game may look better in some areas, but my game definitely looks better overall. Let's talk about colors. The Super Nintendo game has much better use of color. Just randomly pick any level side by side and you'll see the Super Nintendo has more realistic lighting, while the Sega game looks like a cartoon. Now let's talk size. Everything is bigger on Super Nintendo, from the enemies to the buildings. And not only that, your game is missing lots of cool looking levels. The Sega game is completely missing this futuristic factory. You're also missing this cool looking path. My game has more style than your game.
Well, you know what my game has more of? Babes.
Both games have girls you need to rescue, but Sega has a lot more. The girls are also bigger in Sega. Sega has the game with the better babes.
Babes in Sega. There's more of them to see. Babes in Sega. The biggest big can be. Babes in Sega.
Okay, your game may have more of the ladies, but my game has all the...
Oh, I wasn't done. Not only does my game have more babes, but they also have more animations.
When you free a hostage in Sega, they actually get up and run away. On Super Nintendo, they just remain still or disappear. No animated babes for you.
Babes in Sega. They get up off their seats. Babes in Sega. They walk out when they're free. Babes in Sega.
Okay, I get it. Your game put a lot more work into the ladies, but my game still looks better overall. My game also has Mode 7. You definitely don't have that on Sega. Mode 7? No Mode 7. Mode 7? No Mode 7. That, plus better use of color, bigger characters, and cool levels not on Sega, best graphics go to Super Nintendo. The presentation of both games is pretty much the same. Both games start out with a backstory. It's not much, but at least it's something. You occasionally get a member of Aerosmith to do a full motion video cutscene. Then you have two different endings depending on if you find all the members of Aerosmith. These games focus more on the gameplay, so there's not really much in terms of cutscenes.
True, there's not many cutscenes, but my presentation is better.
Let's look at the game screen, particularly your life bar and points area. On Sega, your life bar is nice and solid, pretty easy to see. On Super Nintendo, your life bar is also nice and solid. Oh, wait, that's nothing. That's just a random design. There's your life bar. It's not as solid as Sega's. Also, when you get hit on Sega, it tells you by saying, hit. Super Nintendo just flashes. Lame.
Alright, life bars aside, let's talk about something that's really important. The number of lives. On Super Nintendo, if you look at the top center of the screen, what do you see? The number of lives you have left, of course. Isn't that nice and convenient? Now let's look at the Sega game. Surely the number of lives is in the same spot. Uh-oh. Where did it go? Is it on the bottom? Maybe the left. What about the right? I don't understand. Where are all your lives?
Well, you see...
Because I'm looking really hard. I just don't see them. Maybe I'm looking in all the wrong places. Maybe they're here. No. Is it here? In the fridge next to the papaya? No, there's just lots of papaya. I don't see the number of lives in the fridge next to the papaya. Is it here in the bathroom? Maybe it's in the toilet. No, I don't see it in the toilet because I thought it would be in the toilet. Well, I don't know. Is it here? Is it here in New York City? Because I don't see it there, and it must be here in New York City. Was it here in the Ninja Turtles movie? I don't see it here while they're playing Trivia Pursuit.
Wars. War and Peace.
What's wrong with me, huh? Why can't I find it?
That's cause there is no life counter in the Sega Genesis game.
Oh, isn't that a shame?
Regardless of the lack of a life counter, my game's presentation is way better than yours.
Look at what happens when you get an item in Sega. It goes right to my life bar area. On Super Nintendo, anything you obtain just blinks. Also, I have some in-game cutscenes you don't. In Sega, you see this guy go into this flying vehicle. On Super Nintendo, he's not even there. In Sega, you see Helga change into this monster. On Super Nintendo, you don't actually see the transformation. And look at what happens when you select a level in Sega. It tells you the name of the location. On Super Nintendo, the names of each level is missing.
Yeah, my level name is missing, but at least I have the number of lives.
Well, your game is missing one more thing.
Let's look at the options menu. On Super Nintendo, your options menu looks fine. Everything is easy to read and you have a little background. But on Sega Genesis, babe.
Benson Shaker. She's wearing chains and leather. Benson Shaker. She can whip that thing forever. Benson Shaker.
Even though the Sega game is missing a number of lives, my game still has a better life bar, items that move, in-game cutscenes, names of levels, and Helga in the options menu. Best presentation goes to Sega Genesis.
This game is starring a rock band. The Super Nintendo definitely has that sound covered.
I don't know, the music in my game's pretty good too.
Are you kidding me? My game sounds more like a rock band than yours.
Yeah, but your quality's weak. It sounds like somebody recorded off their stereo using a tape recorder. Mine's good old chiptune quality that you can listen to anywhere.
This is a game with a rock band, so it should sound like a game with an actual rock band. You can't even identify the Aerosmith songs in your game since your chiptune sound is so bad.
You can identify the songs in my game just fine.
Oh yeah? Any idea what this is? Maybe this will help. How about this one? Here, let the Super Nintendo game help you. You can't deny the music sounds better and more appropriate in my game.
I still think my music's pretty good.
This game only has 4 Aerosmith songs. Well, 5 if you include the elevator music version of Love in an Elevator. Very clever game. 4 songs are Ragdoll, Eat the Rich, Fever, and Dude Looks Like a Lady. While the Super Nintendo music sounds good, you only get a 10-second loop at best. Sega gives you a lot more. Only Sega has the intro to Eat the Rich. Only Sega has the verse to Ragdoll. It also has more of Fever and Dude Looks Like a Lady as well.
Plus, my game has a lot more sound effects.
The Sega game has more sound effects. Like when your bullets hit something, it makes a specific sound. The Super Nintendo, on the other hand, doesn't. This can be especially frustrating during boss fights when you're not sure if you're hitting the right spot.
So I have fewer sound effects. Let's talk about those voiceovers. Super Nintendo's voiceovers are nice and clear.
Remember, music is a weapon.
Sega's are all distorted.
Remember, music is a weapon. Stop the New Order bus! Stop the New Order bus!
These guys are maggots. These guys are maggots.
Destroy Chemitech! Destroy Chemitech!
My voiceovers may be distorted, but my game also has a lot more of them.
So many characters in Sega have voiceovers, and so many Super Nintendo characters don't.
What the?
Stop this nonsense now!
And you know who else has voiceovers in Sega? The Babes.
Thank you.
They don't say anything on Super Nintendo.
Benton Shaker. They like to talk to you. Benton Shaker. When you say them, they say.
Thank you.
Even with all the voiceovers in the world, you don't stand a chance at winning. This game is about a rock band. You want the music to sound as close to the original songs as much as possible. Super Nintendo does that. Sega don't. Best sound goes to Super Nintendo.
These games play very similar. I agree.
Both games are a rail shooter. The game moves for you, and all you have to do is point and aim. The main weapons are your machine gun and CDs. The machine gun is unlimited and never needs to reload. The CDs are limited, but you find them scattered throughout the game. You hold down the shoot button for the machine gun and tap the other button for the CDs. So your hands will either look like this or this. And unfortunately, you can't use a light gun for either game.
You can have 1 or 2 players. Most of the time is spent blasting away enemies, and there are a lot of them. There's also hostages to rescue. You also need to find each member of Aerosmith hidden throughout the game. You can pretty much destroy everything. Everything. Sometimes you can pick a path to follow. Some leads to secrets and some are just detours. You can't get lost though. You always end up where you need to go.
But as similar as these games are, my game still plays better.
Let's talk controls. Both games have 1 button for the machine gun and 1 button for CDs. But the Sega game has a 3rd button. This speeds up your crosshair and is incredibly useful. This makes it much easier to be more precise with your aiming. The Super Nintendo just has 1 speed. Sure, you can determine it in the options menu, but having 2 speeds during gameplay greatly increases your ability to aim.
Who needs precision? You're gonna shoot everything anyway. Besides, your game is missing so much. The Sega game is missing a weapon, laser discs. This is a powerful upgrade from your CDs. Have fun with no laser discs.
It's not that much more powerful, and besides, you never even really notice when you get a power-up in your game.
Both games have a machine gun power-up. It's very useful in the Sega game, and it's easy to notice when you get it. When you get it on Super Nintendo, it doesn't make a difference at all. Did you miss it? Here it is again. The game tells you got the upgrade, but it doesn't look or sound like anything's changed.
Just because you can't see it doesn't mean the upgrades are no good. Let's talk about how your game's missing levels. The Sega game's not missing entire levels, but it's missing sections. You're missing this area, this cool path, and you're missing this mini-boss fight completely.
Your game's missing areas too.
You're missing this entrance. You're missing this guy doing his Kool-Aid impression. You're missing Babes turned into old men machine. Yeah, that's a thing. You're missing this backstage area. You're missing this path completely. And I actually fight in my paths.
That's nice. Let's talk about that no life counter again. Once again, the Sega game doesn't have the number of lives anywhere on the screen. You know how frustrating it is to all of a sudden get a game over? Give me the Super Nintendo game with the actual number of lives you have any day.
I don't need a life counter. I like living on the edge. And besides, I haven't even talked about the worst part of your game. The incredible amount of slowdown.
The Super Nintendo game slows down a lot. It happens so often. Anytime too much is happening on screen, it just slows down. It truly ruins the flow of the game. In a simple game like this, where all you do is point and aim, the slowdown is the worst part. And how often does the Sega Genesis game slow down, you ask? Never. Sega game plays nice and smooth the entire time.
You're the best.
No slowdown. Going from the free-flowing Sega game to the slowdown plagued Super Nintendo game is almost torture. It takes this cheesy fun game and almost makes it unplayable.
Little slowdown's a good thing. It helps me aim and deflect attacks more.
A little slowdown? That's a bit generous. Now let's talk about deflecting attacks.
In both games, most enemies are shooting bullets at you, but some enemies throw weapons at you, and these can be deflected. In the Sega game, the enemies throw just enough weapons at you so you don't feel overwhelmed. You can deflect weapons pretty easily when it's only one or two at a time, and having two different speeds helps a lot. The Super Nintendo game, on the other hand, is unforgiving. Enemies are throwing everything at you. It's impossible to deflect everything. It's also incredibly hard to hit these weapons. Even when the game slows down, you still can't deflect everything because they're just throwing way too much at you. The Sega game got it right with deflecting.
I think it's obvious which game has the best gameplay.
With two speeds for your crosshair, a power-up you can see, easy to deflect weapons, and most importantly, no slowdown, the best gameplay goes to Sega Genesis.
Even though both games are incredibly similar, Best Revolution X goes to Sega Genesis.
While the graphics aren't the best, it still looks incredibly good. It has the better presentation with more cutscenes, more labels, more everything. While the music doesn't emulate the band's sound like a Super Nintendo game, it still sounds pretty good and has more voiceovers. It has better gameplay with two crosshair speeds, better deflection, better power-ups, and most importantly, no slowdown. It might seem odd that the game that doesn't capture the Aerosmith sound won, but at the end of the day, these are video games. Sure, hearing a solid 5-second loop might get you to check the game out, but it doesn't keep you playing. That goes to gameplay. And the slowdown on Super Nintendo is just unforgivable. When two games are almost identical, you want to play the game without any problems. And that game is the Sega Genesis game. There's only 4 real Aerosmith songs in this game anyway. That's hardly enough to save the broken gameplay. Best Revolution X goes to Sega Genesis.
You know what? Playing this music game's got me thinking. I'm gonna write a song that tells my boss exactly how I feel.
Right on. You show him who's the real boss.
Why haven't I ever bought a Chia Pet before? That's a good way to spend my boss money. What do you want? You're interrupting my Chia Pet spending.
I need this weekend off. I said it.
Off this weekend? Absolutely not.
Then maybe this will convince you.
What's that?
It's my weapon of choice.
You think you can stop me by rocking out? I'm well versed in the ways of rocking out.
So you're a little learned. I can still beat you.
Tell me, how do you plan on beating a man with 4 hands?
Oh crap.
Remember, music is the weapon.
Ow, my hands! No matter, I only need 2 to defeat you. Ow, my hands! CDs are surprisingly painful. Now I can't guitar duel.
So I win? I don't have to work this weekend?
No, you know what, man? No, you don't have to work this weekend. 'Cause you're fired. Throws a CD anyways. My fingy.
Uh-oh. Fired. That means I can do the Battle of the Bands this weekend. Finally, people will embrace my song about the arts. For art in my face, for art in my face.
Thanks for checking out our latest video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Special thanks to Xavior TheLycan for his donation of the 2 games. And thanks to everyone who suggested Revolution X. And keep those other suggestions coming. We will get to them. Also, check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for more console wars goodness. Later.
You bet. Revolution X for Super Nintendo? Hell, I taped it.
I told you that wasn't gonna work.